Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, 10 to Life. If you haven't been here before, my name is Elise and I am bringing you everything true crime in under 10 minutes. Full cases, start to finish, no boring plots, no empty storylines, all of the insane details right in one place, start to finish. So if you like the video, you like the channel, please subscribe below, comment, share. I would love to know your feedback. Today's case is actually one that was recommended to me from you guys, so thank you for that. And let's just get into it. So to kick it off, let me just let you know, I want to give you a bit of a warning. This is a really tough case. It's a little bit graphic and it's really emotional and hard to listen to. It's personally one of the toughest cases that I've ever listened to or ever read about myself personally, so I don't even know how I'm going to really get through doing a video about it, but I'm going to try because I think it's really important that we continue talking about things like this so that there continues to be justice for the victims and these cases aren't forgotten about. So today's case is about Michael and Casey Jones, and they are a couple who are from Florida. They met about 7 years ago. They were both married at the time, but they hit it off and they really were into each other. They started having an affair, and ultimately they ended up divorcing both of their spouses so that they could be together. As of 2019, they were married a total of 2 years, but they've been together for 7 years in total. They have 2 biological children together, Mercali, who is 2, and Ayala, who is 1. Casey had 2 children in her previous marriage, a boy, Cameron, who is 10, and Preston, who is 5. Michael also had 3 other children from his previous marriage, but they didn't live with Casey and Michael at the time. So their relationship starts out pretty toxic from the start. There were constant jealousy issues. Casey was always accusing Michael of cheating on her with his ex-wife, who he actually left for Casey, but any relationship, I think we all know, that starts through infidelity is going to have some sort of level of jealousy or toxicity behind it. So Casey was constantly jealous. She would continuously accuse him of cheating. They would get in heated arguments, and they really just had an unhealthy, toxic relationship from the start. Neighbors had reported hearing them arguing on a regular basis. A 12-year-old boy even said he lost sleep one night because he could hear banging and screaming all night that kept him awake. And Cameron, Casey's son, who lived with them, told his biological father at one point too that they were fighting every single night, that Michael was constantly abusive, constantly yelling, and he described the fights as being very violent and that they almost occurred nightly. He even said that he was abusive to the children at one point, hitting them with hangers or anything else he could find. Just a really awful, horrible environment. On September 14th, 2019, Casey's mom, Nikki, goes to the police and says, I'm concerned. I haven't heard from Casey or seen Casey in 6 weeks. I haven't seen the grandkids either. I'm a little worried. This is out of character. The biggest red flag to her was that Casey didn't acknowledge her son's birthday on Facebook, which she always does. She was very active on social media. So she said, something's going on. She also said, I'm a little concerned that Michael may have done something to the family. And although Michael and Casey had this toxic relationship in this toxic past, Michael had had no previous record. There had been no official calls of domestic violence or abuse to the house. Technically completely squeaky clean, but still she was concerned that he had potentially done something to the family. The county sheriffs go and do a welfare check on the house, and when they arrive, they notice that the house is completely empty. And it appears that it's been empty now for several weeks. They also start to smell a foul odor that they identify as the smell of decomposition. They leave the house and they identify Casey, 32 years old at the time, and her 4 children as missing. However, they say because it had now been 6 weeks of time that they essentially have not been heard from, that they're not going to do an official search party for them. Which to me doesn't quite make sense or add up. I mean, because you obviously know that there is something afoot, right? The police put out a statement trying to get in contact with Michael Jones saying, hey, we need information about your wife and your kids. We're concerned. We just did a welfare check. Can you please get in touch with us? So Michael calls them back and says, I'm sorry. I'm in the UK right now with my 2 kids. We're on vacation. Can I give you a call back? And the detectives are like, yeah, sure. Thank you. He never calls them back. As they continue their investigation a bit further, they discover Michael had contacted maintenance workers on August 23rd, so about a month prior, to have work done on the house saying that the family was moving out. Not a good sign. The next day, the police respond to a single vehicle crash in Georgia. It was Michael Jones. He had crashed his van, completely smushed, and police approached him to make sure that he was okay. One of the first things out of Michael's mouth is, you may want to put me in handcuffs because there's a dead body inside the vehicle. Okay. Then he says, go ahead and arrest me. My wife's body is in the back seat. The police go to the back of the van and investigate and see what's going on, and they discover Casey's body, which appears to have been dead for several weeks. After the crash, police, of course, take him into custody, and he then leads them to a wooded area where they discover 4 more bodies. I mean, truly horrific. Interrogation videos, Michael begins to tell detectives about his relationship with Casey and what's transpired over the years, and really just starts unloading all of this information to them. He says, quote, it just got worse, like all the time. It was all of these little things and it just boiled up over time. Quote, okay, well, What does that mean? But he also tells them it never really got physical. He says they argued all the time, but that it never got physical. Well, that's not really believable, right? He ends up telling them the long-winded story of what happened. So on July 10th, Michael was at work when he got a call from Casey. She was upset because she thought he was being unfaithful. He hung up on Casey and turned his phone off. He was like, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just not even engaging with you right now. When Michael got home, he said the fight continued, and Casey was pestering him and berating him and flashing her phone's flashlight in his face and really just like following him around the house and just being like, I know you're cheating, blah, blah, yelling at him, going off on a rampage. He says then the fight escalated when Casey grabbed one of her son's metal baseball bats and was holding it horizontally as she was continuing to yell at him. Michael says he then grabbed the bat from Casey and hits her over the head and just continues to hit her over and over and over. Meanwhile, all 4 children were sleeping in the house. He says he put Casey's body in a plastic tote and put it in the closet and tried to clean up as best as he could, all while the children were sleeping. Truly horrifying. A couple days later, he contacted his ex-wife, Sarah Jones, and said he and Casey were separating, so he wanted to come visit her and their children. He goes and stays with her from July 26th to August 11th, all while Casey's body continues to remain in the house. Gross. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, he had to do something with his shared children with Casey. So he reached out to Casey's mother, pretending he was Casey through Casey's phone, texting her saying, hey, do you mind watching the girls for a few days? She, of course, says, yeah, no problem. I'm the grandma. Obviously, I'll take them. So he drops the 2 girls off with the grandma, and then with the boys, the same thing with their biological father. So both sets of children are with the grandmother and then also with the father. They stay with them until August 10th, and then Michael comes back and picks them up. Still, nobody's aware that Casey is missing. And this is where the story starts to get really disgusting and really disturbing, and everything just takes a turn. So the following morning, while Casey's body is still in the house decomposing, it's been a month now, Michael walks into Cameron's bedroom, pulls him out of bed onto the floor, and strangles him to death. He said he put his knee on his chest so that he couldn't breathe, while Preston, the other little boy, was just sleeping in the next room over. He takes the body and stores it in the house, just systematically going one by one by one. It is horrible and so gruesome. So the next night, he goes into Preston's room. This time, though, he takes a zip tie and puts it around Preston's neck. He then carries Preston to the bathtub, full of running water, and drowns him. And he tells police, which this kills me, he says, the reason I decided to drown him and not strangle him is because my hands were still so sore from the night before when I strangled Cameron. I mean, that is so disturbing and disgusting. Truly horrifying. At some point during all of this, he says he used kitty litter to try to soak up the bodily fluids that were coming out of these dead bodies and soak up some of the smell if possible. So fast forward now 2 weeks. Casey's body has been in the house for over a month and a half, and the boys' bodies have been there for 2 weeks, just decomposing and rotting. And this is when he decides to kill the 2 youngest daughters, his biological children. He tells police that he was served an eviction notice and that he was running out of time. So on the 5th and last day when the eviction was about to post, he said, this is it, I'm running out of time, and now's my deadline. He said he spent hours outside the police department debating whether or not to turn himself in, but ultimately says he couldn't work up the courage to do so. So instead of working up the courage and coming clean, he decides to drive home with his 2 daughters and kill them. And he drowns both of them in the bathtub, one after the other. He takes all 5 bodies, all of them in single totes, and puts them in his van. And then he drives down to Jacksonville, Florida to be with his ex-wife, while all 5 bodies are in his van, still decomposing. He stayed with his ex-wife from that point on until Casey was reported missing, which was about 3 weeks total. So at this point now, it has been several weeks since Casey first died, but now in total, all these 5 bodies just rotting in this car. Once Casey is reported missing, they catch wind of it down in Jacksonville, and he says, don't worry about it, I'm gonna go back up to the county, I'm gonna take care of it, I'm gonna talk to them, and we'll sort this whole thing out. So his ex-wife says, okay, go ahead, sort it out. Instead of going back to their county in Florida, he starts driving towards Georgia. As he's driving, he decides to stop in a wooded area because he needs to pee, and at that point, he also decides, okay, this looks like a good place for me to dump my children's bodies. So he gets rid of all of the children's bodies in the wooded area, not Casey's, not his wife, she's still in the car, and decides to, okay, pee, and then I'm on my merry way. I mean, what? So he's on the road fiddling with his GPS, and that's when he crashes, and police come and find him, and he admits to having Casey's body in the car. Detectives ask him, okay, well, what was your plan when you were leaving your ex-wife's house? What were you gonna do? Because you clearly had all of the bodies in your car. At this point, everybody's aware Casey and the kids are missing. What was your grand plan? He says, I don't know, I didn't really have anything planned out. I was just planning to cross the Florida border. Maybe sit at a rest stop, try to think. And then he says, I'd like to say that I sat there debating on killing myself or not, but I didn't. Truly a sociopath.
I like to say that sit here and kill myself, but, you know, that's not it.
So now, Michael Wayne Jones is being charged with 4 counts of first-degree premeditated homicide for the deaths of his 4 children, his 2 stepchildren, the 2 biological children, and he's also being charged with second-degree homicide for his wife, Casey. He hasn't gone to trial yet, so stay tuned for updates. I'm going to be following this very closely because people like this, who are just such awful human beings, especially when it's a crime with your children, and like at this point, it's your entire family you just wiped out, to me, I'm like overly passionate about that, and I want to know what's going on, and I want to make sure this guy gets the death penalty or that something horribly tragic happens to him in jail. So, on that note, stay tuned for updates, and I will keep you posted. Thanks for tuning into this episode of 10 to Life. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel below, share, comment. I would love to know your feedback. Any more case recommendations, please send them my way. Email address is in the description, and until next time, thanks.